Yes, welcome to the Annesville Sports Complex, where Barbados.
Hello, good morning to all our listeners. Good morning from Warner Park, where we are just minutes away from the commencement of the second day's play in the regional match, the Leeward Islands Scorpion versus the Trinidad and Tobago team. Match, of course, started yesterday with TNT winning the toss and electing to send the Leeward Islands in.
Umpires are out, and good morning, Mr. Martin.
Good morning, Charles, and good morning to the listeners of this broadcast. And welcome to day 2 of this game between Volcanoes and Barbados Pride. Today is set to be a very interesting day in context of this game. A very important day, whether see who would put their nose in front.
So, Barbados Pride, they are making their way out, and certainly they would want to make some inroads into the Windward Island Volcanoes batting, but Windward Islands would want to really deny them that privilege. So it's, as you rightly said, it's going to be a very interesting day, and it's going to be a testing first hour. There's a bit of cloud cover. The sun is not out in its glory, and one would think under this condition the ball should move about a bit.
Yeah, it should offer some assistance to the fast bowlers, really. It's good, cool condition. The breeze is just blowing across, so you should get some assistance here. But Charlie, you have to bear in mind that this wicket is not a very fast wicket, so how effective you would be, it's left to be seen.
Well, it's how well you can use that ball that you have. So as we speak, we see Melios and Ambris making their way out, both helmeted, maroon helmet. And it appears as if it's going to be Warwigan who will start.
Well, it's expected, Charlo. He has been the pick of the bowlers from yesterday, and he has caused the most problems. And as a skipper, if he picked up 2 wickets yesterday, I'm expecting him to start this morning to really keep the pressure on the Windward Islands batters.
So he would be the one that the Windwards would have to look at. We see hazy conditions as we see Becco in the distance, so too is a fuel tanker. And as I looked to the edge of the double-decker, I can just get a glimpse of part of Mustique. So cool conditions here to start with on day 2. Flags not fluttering, rather lying limply on the flag stand. And as we look around, just a sprinkling of spectators, really, when you came into the ground. But one anticipates that as the day goes on, that you're going to have a few more persons coming in.
Well, it's a Friday, so we expect a few people to ask the boss for a little time to come and have a little recreation here at Annesville, look at some cricket. Yeah, some youngsters playing. That's the future of the West Indies cricketers. And really, just look at the cricket and show support to the youngsters.
So it's Ambris who will take strike. We see Captain Shamar Brooks just adjusting his field. So there's a slip, there's a short extra cover, a backward point cover mid-off on the offside. There is a long on, mid-wicket, and a short mid-on and a man on at forward short leg. So it's going to be Warwigan to start. Ambris on strike. He looks down. Both very good friends. But here it is, in and bowls, and Ambris is right forward to that and pushed it to short extra cover, and there is no run. So Windwards resuming overnight score 51 for 2. We're just with the second ball of day 2. It's Warwigan, very short run indeed, in and bowls, and Ambris is driving to cover firmly. Cover moving up smartly to his right, fields on the bounce. And there is no run, so I think this is going to be a very good contest this morning between Warwigan and Ambris. Warwick in once more, and Ambrose is driving beautifully through covers. He opened up and he really drove it sweetly between the mid-off and cover, and it raced away for the first boundary of the morning. It total goes on to 55, and certainly that was a well-played shot.
Yes, a really nice shot there by Ambrose. The ball was floated just on the off stump. He drove the first one straight directly to the fielder, but this time
Waiting from the media center end as he moves away from us now. Right arm over the wicket, goes in now, bowls to Ward, and Ward gets a good delivery. Right on target, he keeps it out. And Ramlin comes from behind to field, and there's no run. So, on target so far, Victor?
Yes, so far, good line and length, which they would need to be consistent in those areas. Once he can be consistent, Ward will have to play, and play very often is very important in terms of the bowler keeping it wicket to wicket.
So, it's Anderson Phillip once more goes in the bowls outside the off stump this time, and through it goes to Ramlin. Takes well behind, and no run is scored. It's a pretty bright day here at Warner Park. Conditions are ideal for cricket. There's some cloud about. Of course, we would have had some early morning rain, I think, Victor.
Yes.
The one in Bastia. We had some in the rural areas.
Yeah, just after 4. It's some rain. Yeah.
Okay, Victor is up early. Philip goes in a bowls a delivery which is driven up to short mid-wicket by Ward. It was pitched up to the batsman on the pads, and he was driving. And Pierre fielded well. It went straight to him, and he fielded well. No run was scored. So Ward is kept on 64. It's 296 for 5. Leewards. Cornwall is on 34. And Victor, no doubt you would have some comments as to what the plans of the Leeward Island batsmen would be today. They're in a very good position, 296 for 5. We're in there too, as Philip goes in a bowls, a good delivery, right on target, on centre and off. Batsman gets in behind it, plays it well. Just a slight in-one movement to the right-handed Ward. He plays it well, and no run is scored.
Yeah, this is very good bowling, that he is not trying to bowl too quick, but to try to get it in areas where Ward would have to play, and he has just done well so far, keeping it there or thereabout, and Ward will settle now.
So he waits for Anderson Phillip, and for this delivery he's driving but not timing it well, coming from the inner portion of the bat and going down to mid-on where it's fielded by Sinclair. The over comes to an end. It's a maiden over to start the day. And Victor, your thoughts?
Yes, well, a good over for us to start with, and good line and length. And these two batsmen, though, for the Leeward Islands, no doubt will be trying to build upon the partnership which they have going so far, some 46 runs. So Terence Ward and Rakeem Cornwall, two capable batsmen, and lower down here, well, for the Leewards. And this would matter a lot now to see how Cornwall will negotiate Pierre, who appears to, he will be coming from the southern end of the ground. So interesting move, but quite rightly so, because what we see of Pierre yesterday, the spin and bounce he extracted. Let us see what would happen now on day 2 of this encounter. Trinidad and Tobago Red Force versus the Leeward Islands Hurricanes.
So we will see spin from the far end. It's Pierre. And Victor, would you have opted for the new ball? Perhaps at the end of the over you could give your thoughts on that. Cornwall is playing this one up to short mid off, which fielded by Simmons. There's the run. Slip backward point. Short cover. And a man on the extra cover boundary also. Sweeping. There's a man on the long off boundary, and there's an extra cover also, short. As this one is pushed up to short mid-on, where Solozano fields and there's no run. There's also a fielder, looks like Yannick Carraya, right back on the long on boundary, as this one is well fielded there by the bowler to his own bowling, well fielded by Pierre, diving to his right, prevents a run, comes in now left arm around the wicket and bowls, and this one is swept down to the fine leg boundary, and we'll get there. The man at backward square is more in a deep backward square position, and it was way to his right. He was a bit too square to prevent that boundary, and 4 runs to Cornwall. So he goes off the mark. The 300 comes up. He goes to 38. It's now 300 for 5. Ward is on 64. As Pierre comes in, now bowls. Cornwall is back, forces up to extra cover. They go straight to Sinclair, who is on the boundary. He fields and sends the return to the bowler's end. Tied it up there by Solozano. And now we see some adjustment in the field now for the right-handed Ward, who is not as attacking as Cornwall. The silly point has been placed, so there's a slip, there's a silly point, there's a backward point, and now extra cover has gone into more of the orthodox cover position, sweeping for Ward. And there are 2 extra covers, and a long off right back on the boundary is also mid-on as opposed to long on and the deep backward square. Pierre comes in now, bowls to Ward. Ward is sweeping. It goes to Philip, who is in the backward square area. Not quite on the boundary, just about 20 meters or so from the boundary. And the first over of spin comes to an end. It's 302 for 5, the Leeward Islands.
Yes, if I had the choice really to of what the strategy would have been, I think directly I would have gone for the new ball right away. In that one, the ball would be much harder. It's glassy, and if the bowlers put it in the right areas, where just bringing the batsman on their front foot, probably trying to cover drive or something of that nature, I would have preferred to go for the new ball right away against these 2 batsmen.
So 6 runs coming from the first over of Pierre. Philip, who will continue from the media center, and his first over was a maiden. He goes in now and bowls to Ward, and Ward is defending. It goes up to cover, and it's Lendl Simmons who fields. There's no run. So for Philip, there's a slip, there's a gully, there's a man at back gully, there's a man at backward point, just slightly backward of point. Cover is short in Simmons. And it's Mohammed who is at mid-off. Mid-on is St. Clair. Short mid-wicket is Solozano. The silver, he's at square leg. Forward of square, he's playing at the delivery outside the off stump, and beaten, and through it goes to Ramden. And Khan, who seems to be a specialist in that position, is down on the long leg boundary, right back on the boundary. He has been fielding there for most parts, except probably when the spinner is in operation or when he's bowling. But once the fast bowlers are on, he seems to...
I was just on the off stump, though. Mid-off was up, and he really took advantage of that. Striking it over the top. 1 bounce into the fence for 4. And he looking positive so far, Charlo.
So here is Warwican once more to bowl to Melius, and he's working that out to mid-wicket, who comes off the boundary. He'll get a single. And he goes on to 25. The total now on to 65. 65 for 2.
It's into what would be a very, very fine leg boundary. And another control shot, Victor, seemed to have taken probably around the hand of the bat and going in the air. But 4 runs nevertheless to Ward. He moves to 69. and important runs.
Yeah, and fortunate for Ward, he was looking in the area of square leg, and luckily for him, he got it down to fine leg where it went one bounce. Though there's a fielder, but he was at all square leg, and luckily for Ward, he earned himself 4 runs, but it was a stroke. He was not in control, but in any way, he got 4, and really he would have to, well, there is some difficulty in the two fieldsmen beyond the boundary looking for the ball. And there is where also the tarpaulins are placed, so they're having 1 or 2 challenges down there, and we see Ramden and someone else going there. It looked like
Smith. I think they're looking in the wrong area though, Victor. The ball seemed to have bounced to the right of where they're looking and gone over the railing there. So I suspect the ball might have gone a little further than they would have expected. And but we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
And I suspect they would have to go a little further than where they are, because that certainly seemed to have bounced just to the right of where they're looking and gone over the railing. But Victor, I'm sure you would have had your days where you would have been, well, I should not say that. You played cricket in Warner Park, but fellas like me, we played cricket in areas where you had a lot of grass and so on, and
Yeah, because
you had to really, gauge where the ball had dropped, so you could find that ball in the grass or in the bushes.
yeah, well, a lot of play areas then around the whole island and so forth. Well, with the exception of Warner Park and so forth, but around other rural areas and so forth, those things used to be you hit 4s and 6s, and everybody had to watch to see where the ball ended up in the bush and so on, and try to follow that guide,
Yeah, but the ball was carried out by the third umpire, so he's beckoning to the. In fact, they found it.
Yeah,
now.
one of the groundsmen.
One of the groundsmen.
Yeah.
Well, shows he knows his covers.
That's right. But on this second day encounter though between Trinidad Red Force and the Leewards, these two, no doubt it was planned or discussed that they will have to try and build upon the partnership that they have thus far, for them to get a total that they will feel very challengeable for Trinidad and Tobago Red Force to chase.
Yes, but I think they would want whatever runs they would be looking to get. They would be looking to get them as quickly as possible too. The foundation is laid 306 for 5 at the moment, and you have the aggressive Cornwall, and he has been aggressive. He's not afraid to go for his shots. He's at the crease at the moment. So we should expect that they would be looking to pile on the runs as Philip goes in a bowls. This one is driven nicely by Ward. Not timed as he would have liked though. And he would get towards the ball goes out to square cover. And retrieved by backward point Carrier, who had some running to do. So 71 for Ward. And it's now 308 for 5. And Ward has seemed to have picked up his scoring tempo this morning, and we have seen the Trinidad and Tobago team being less defensive for Ward, but soon you might see the sweeper going back at cover. He's behind this one and plays it up to widest mid-off. It's fielded by Mohammed. Good to see Mohammed on the field today. Yesterday he seemed to have sustained some injury to his knee, but he seems to be walking around quite freely, which suggests that it was just a minor injury, more pain than anything else. And it's good to see him out there on the field. Of course, one never likes to see players being injured, whether it's the opposing team or your team. As Philip goes away from us now, bowls short outside the off stump. And Ward is onto the back foot and plays it up to Simmons at cover. He fields, and the over comes through. And we would have had some 3 overs completed for the day. And the Leewards really starting well, Victor.
Yes, they have started well. Cornwall and Ward. Well, Pierre would be hoping to make some early inroads, and no doubt the Trinidad Red Force would be hoping for that breakthrough here on in too. But Cornwall and Ward, they would have their ideas cut out for them, know their strategy. Well, Pierre, we have not seen the extraction at spin and bounces yet.
I suspect, though, I'll get back to that in a while as Pierre comes in and bowls. And perhaps this is one of the reasons. When the ball was a lot newer,
Right.
seemed to be getting more bite. But of course, the wicket might have dried out a bit too, so we're not getting that spin and bounce that might have been there because of the preparation moisture. As this one is pushed up to extra cover by Cornwall, and the run is scored. So here comes Spear now, bowls. And this one is banged past cover, and it goes into the offside. Sinclair moves to his left. That's his good hand from extra cover to field. Just a single to Cornwall. Now the silly point comes in for Ward. And comes Spear, and Ward is coming down, and a delivery which is right up in the black hole. Keeps it out. The umpire has some words with him. He seems to be encroaching on the danger area, and that seems to be a warning, Victor, is it?
Yes, it is a warning, and it seems like he have had the discussion before to Pierre about that, on day one.
So Pierre comes in now, and this one is short and looking to force into the offside. It comes from the bottom portion of the bat, bounces out to Mohammed, who is at backward point. He fields, and there's no run, so Ward is kept on 71. And Ward has looked very positive so far in this innings. He has batted well, and he goes forward and plays this quietly into the offside. And this has been a very good knock by Ward. Leewards, of course, losing early wickets, but showing that there's depth in the batting. They have recovered well. So well that they are now 309 for 5. Driven up to long off by Ward, a delivery which was pitched up by the left-hander. And Ward, with that single, moves to 72 as the over comes to an end.
Yes, and these two are looking good for the Leeward Islands, Ward and Cornwall. Well, Trinidad and Tobago, then the umpire is still, and Ramden, a few of them gathered there now, having a conversation with the umpire, and he was indicating to them where the Pierre was running in a danger area, so he'll have to try and keep out of that area. Well, Ward would be on strike, and Trinidad and Tobago Red Force not having any success as yet this morning. 310 for 5. Terence Ward not out on 72. Raheem Cornwall 40. Ward would be on strike.
Philip will continue from the media center end. He goes away from us now. Bowls outside the off stump. No shot from Ward. It goes to Ramden. Some clouds just ahead of us, Victor, and just in the birdwalk area.
Clear and bright.
But no signs of rain at the moment. And the strong breeze, of course, blowing across the field might lend some assistance to Philip, who seems to have the ability to bowl off cutters to the right-handed batsman. He goes in and bowls. This one is a lovely delivery. Right on cue, Victor, just as I was saying that he had the ability to bowl off cutters. That one seemed to have gone past the inside edge, just maybe a millimeter or so away from the off stump of Ward. A lovely delivery there by Philip.
Well, that was good.
By Ramden.
That was good anticipation of you also there, and really, we, as you suggested, with the strong breeze coming across the ground with the new ball and seeing what just happened there. That's why I said that right away. I would prefer to go for the new ball, but that is not so, and Ward will have to look at him because that was really a good in cutter.
So he moves away from us now. Right arm. Over the wicket goes in a bowls. This one is tickled down to fine leg. Very straight indeed. Down to the boundary for, in fact, it comes from the pads of what, the thigh pads probably. And ran away down to the fine leg boundary. Very fine indeed for 4. But 4 runs to the Leewards nevertheless.
Yes, and really, Leewards would accept runs, obviously, in any form or fashion, and that was leg buys, but it goes to the total in any event. Ward remains on 32, while Raheem Cornwall is on 40.
Well, you're subtracting Cornwall's runs from Ward to give him 32.
No, I said, sorry, 40.
He's in fact on 72. Cornwall is on 40.
72. Sorry.
As Philip goes in our bowls and he's beaten outside the off stump. And through it goes to Ramden. 314 for 5. There's 16 extras. Made over number 100. We had 96 overs bowled yesterday, which was very good from the Trinidad and Tobago team. Really completing the stipulated 90 overs well ahead of time. So well ahead of time that they were able to get in an extra 6 overs yesterday. Last wicket going down with the score on 250. These two would have added some 64 runs. This one is in behind it, gets it out square of looking on the offside. Shadowed there by Yannick Correa, picked up by Lendl Simmons. And no run is scored. Slip, gully, point more, backward point in fact, the backward point. Simmons, he's at a straightish cover. More in an extra cover position, I would say. Mohammed is at mid-off. And Sinkley is at mid-on. Short mid-wicket, Solozano. And square leg is, this one is playing at outside the off stump. And it beats the outside edge and goes to the keeper. So over number 100 comes to an end. And I know Victor, the Ramden, he has Smith, Odin Smith, not opening bowler. There's also Sinclair. But Philip, of course, started the attack in the first innings, but he seemed to be bent on giving him an extended spell here this morning. So, question, seems as the Ramden he's not really thinking in terms of going for the new ball anytime soon.
Well, from his motive, you're quite right with that it doesn't appear so. He's relying on the pace and spin attack, which he has opened with this morning here on day 2. So that is clear. But with the harder ball, though, even though it's obvious that the moisture is out of the surface and so forth, and his height, Pierre, he would have been getting more bounce too also.
Well, he comes in now, really extracted a lot of bounce and turn earlier on. This one is driven up to cover by Cornwall for a single. Sinclair comes in from off the extra cover boundary, moving to his right, of course, to his left, sorry, and a single. And for Ward, he goes more into an orthodox cover position. And here is Ward stretching well forward and defending. Simmons picks up and sends it back to the bowler. As the left-hander comes in once more, bowls, swept away, in fact, an attempted sweep, taken on the pads, and probably missing leg. And umpire Jonathan Blade is not interested. Just a half-hearted appeal from one or two of the Trinidad and Tobago players as Spear comes in. In fact, he misses his runner of bots. Probably thinking that all was not well synchronized, so he tries again, comes in the bowls, and Ward is beaten outside the off stump. This one starting on about centre and off and spinning past the outside edge and taken behind by Ramden. So 315 for 5. Ward on 72. He's going forward and beaten once more. And All of a sudden, Pierre getting it to spin a bit Victor, but not the extravagant bounce that he was getting yesterday morning. He comes in once more, left arm over the wicket. This time, he gets one on center stump and pitched up further, and he's pushing back up the track to Pierre, who fields to his own bowling. The over comes to an end. 315 for 5. It's the latest score here at Warner Park.
Yes, and Pierre continues to bowl well from that southern end, and Rakeem Cornwall and Terence Ward now too having a conversation. And Rakeem Cornwall, who usually bowls from that southern end, he will no doubt be paying close attention in recognizing and seeing the spin and bunks. Well, Rakeem Cornwall, with that height, obviously he's going to get bunks. He's not really a big spinner of the ball.
So it should be interesting when he takes the ball. But at the moment, it's difficult to see where Trinidad and Tobago will be getting their next wicket. These two are looking very solid, apart from what being beaten by 1 or 2 from Pierre. But Ramden, at this point, should be thinking in terms of other options in trying to break this partnership and trying to end the Leeward Islands innings as quickly as possible. But Philip, who has bowled well this morning, has bowled well so far, bowls a delivery which is on target, right and off stump, and defended there by Cornwall with a very broad bat. And ball really travelled back quickly, but he was just defending. What good timing there, and the ball really coming back quickly to mid-off. So Philip in his 24th over, 7 maidens so far, 77 runs, 1 wicket. Pierre has had 34 overs, 4 maidens, 87 runs, and has picked up 2 wickets. Philip once more outside the off stump, banged away. They should be 4. Lovely shot out to the rather straightish cover boundary. It was shortish, and he just stood to his full height and gave it the treatment and slapped it down to the cover boundary before. Good shot there, Victor.
Yes, and Rakeem Cornwall had all reasons to execute that into the deep extra cover boundary because it was wide and short, and he really hammered it into the deep extra cover boundary for 4 runs.
Cornwall with that 4 moves to 45. The score's gone on to 319 for 5. Warden on strike is on 72. Philip goes away from us once more now. Bowls. And this one, he gets it down to square leg, back out of square. The silver comes in from off the square leg boundary, and Cornwall is through for a single. So with that single, he moves to 46. It's now 320 for 5.
Yes, and Rakeem Cornwall, he continues to bat good low down as a lower order batsman. He knows and he selects when to hit his 4s and 6s, and obviously he would not run the 3s and the 2s. He'll just nudge it around, but he makes up with those 4s and 6s.
So 70-run partnership between these two so far, Ward and Cornwall. This one turned into the onside, thinking of a run, but Cornwall is not interested. And Pierre is quickly to his right, and prevents the batsman from taking a run, discourages them from going for attempting that single. 2 slips now for Ward. 2 slips a gully. There's a backward point, extra cover mid-off, mid-on, short mid-wicket, long leg, right back on the boundary. As he goes away from us now, bowls. This one is driven back to the bowler, not well timed, coming from the bottom portion of the bat. And the bowler fields and sends it across to Mohammed for him to do some work on the missile, on the cherry, as some people refer to it as. And ball seems to be in good condition though, Victor.
Oh yes, obviously.
And from my understanding, they're using the juke balls in the Caribbean tournament, so they tend to stand up longer, bang away. In fact, it was in the air and just over the head of Karai, who's at backward point. In fact, he might have gotten a fingertip to it, and that probably Victor prevented it from going into the bounds before.
Yes, it was struck hard, it was high, and he got a hand to it, yes. That actually took the pace of the ball from going into the deep point boundary, and immediately at the conclusion of that over, Ward and Raheem Cornwall having a mid-pitch conversation, and now they now separate from each other, so they are well aware, knowing fully well that the last wicket for the Leewards went down when the total was 250, so they're building upon the partnership steadily, and as you quite rightly alluded to earlier, it doesn't look like these two, any of them has posed any real difficulty for the batsmen apart from.
So Pierre will continue from the fire. With those 2 runs, Ward has moved on to 74. It's 322 for 5. Pierre comes in and bowls to Cornwall. Cornwall plays up to cover. The silver is there. He fields. No run. And Pierre will continue once more. He bowls. Driven. Back to the ball who fields well to his own bowling. No run. To the, of course, working there in St. Kitts, but working there not. People seldom come to these games.
Don't come at that.
And this one is attempted sweep, ball lobs from something, probably pads, and it's tidied up there by Solozano. Slip, backward point, cover, right back on the boundary, 2 extra covers and long off. He's driving, it gets past Simmons, who is at one of those extra cover and goes up to long off for Canada Field, and a single to Cornwall, who moves to 47. Interesting news, Victor. I understand that Ricky Richard Skerritt, to be more precise, former manager of the West Indies team, he's going to run for the West Indies, the Cricket West Indies presidency, driven up to deep mid-on. Ward thinks there's a single, but his partner, Cornwall, does not think so, and no one is scored. And I think there's a gentleman from Trinidad, Shallow. He's going up for vice presidency. Get back to that in a while, as this one is banged up to cover. This time they get a single, as cover is deep. So Ward goes to 75. It's now 325 for 5. So, Victor, rather interesting. Ricky Skerritt going to challenge Dave Cameron for the Cricket West Indies presidency, and he is supported by, I think, a gentleman by the name of Shallow out of Trinidad and Tobago for vice presidency. So, rather interesting.
Yes, interesting indeed. And I think that Richard Skerritt will get a lot of support in terms of what their motion would be going forward. And really, there really need to be some resurrection in terms of the governance of the West Indies Board of Control. That is very much a debate that is in a wide cross-section, not just in the West Indies, but in the diaspora. But, you know.
Philip will make his way now to bowl to Ward, who is on 75. And for this delivery, it's wide of the off stump, and Ward is going after it. Not an ill-advised shot, of course, and it beats him and it goes through to the keeper. Elections, of course, for the presidency would take place on the 21st of March this year. Mm-hmm. So a lot of interest would be channeled towards that development. Skerritt, of course, managed the West Indies team some years back. He's from St. Kitts originally, but now the president of the St. Vincent Cricket Association goes in now. Philip bowls a good delivery. which is defended by Ward, and it goes up to Pio Fields. That short mid wicket, there's no run. So he's the president of the St. Vincent and Grenadines Cricket Association at the moment. And of course, Ricky Skerritt, he hails from St. Kitts, former classmate, former sixth former classmate of mine, and of course, a minister of government in the Labour administration for a number of years. Philip is tickled, probably coming from the part of Ward. It goes down to fine leg, and they get a single. Signal comes for leg by, so one more to the score. Goes to 325 for 5. There's 17 extras now on the board. And Ricky Skerritt, of course, at one point being the Minister of Tourism here in St. Kitts. So that's the latest interesting thing coming out in the news, Victor. So no doubt you will be following that quite keenly.
Oh, yes, indeed. And
Cornwall settles now and waits for Philip, and he's defending. Good delivery. And it goes to mid-on. Pierre moves to his left from short mid-wicket, gets the ahead of Sinclair, who is at mid-on, and he fields, and there's no run. Slight overcast at the moment. As we look to Nevis, it's looking rather hazy over there. And it would be Philip who goes away from us now, and bowls to Cornwall, who's turning it nicely down to square leg for a single. Delivery which was short and center and leg stump thereabout. Lifting, he just got into his wicket and turned it around nicely. Kept it all along the ground and picked up a single, so he has collected his 48th run. And it's now 326 for 5, the Leeward Islands. And they, of course, were asked to bat. They were inserted yesterday by the Trinidad and Tobago team. Philip goes away from us now, bowls, and the Ward defends. It goes up to Simmons, who stops it with the boot in an extra cover position. The over comes to an end. It's a bit more overcast at the moment, but no signs of rain at the moment. But Victor, Leeward's consolidating well.
yes, and an interesting session on day 2, the first session on day 2 here between this, in this regional match between Trinidad and Tobago Red Force and the Leeward Islands Hurricanes. So good consolidation between Ward and Cornwall, resuming this morning. The last wicket went down when the total was 250. It is now 326. Raheem Cornwall will be on strike, and there's going to be a change of bowling from the southern end.
So Yannick Carrero will pick up the attack, bowling right arm with spinners. And it's obvious that Ramdin has no interest in the second new ball at the moment.
That is out of the equation.
Perhaps thinking that the second new ball might bring more runs, but I certainly would have gone for that option, especially at the start of the day's play, and see what response this track would have to the newer and harder ball. But he has other ideas, as Carrera from the far end, right arm leg spin off a very short one, comes in up, bowls short and banged up to cover by Cornwall. He jogs through for a single. And Victor, I know you like to talk about taking the first one quickly, but Cornwall never seems to take the first one quickly.
No, he's not that type of athletic figure in running those quick 1s and 2s, but then Those 4s and 6s, he make up for it.
Yeah, but I think he has to know a little better than that, though, because especially in 4-day cricket, as this one spins past outside the house and goes through to the keeper. There are times when the 4s and 6s will not come quite easily, especially when you're faced with some challenging bowling, as Correa comes in a bowls. This time it's on target. Ward is defending. It goes down to backward point where Mohammed feels there's no run. So especially in 4-day cricket, you sometimes, and this has been one of the drawbacks to the West Indies cricket. We have not been able to keep the scoreboard rolling over by picking up the 1s and 2s, turning 1s into 2s and that sort of thing. Very important aspect of the game.
Oh yes, certainly. That is a high aspect of the game, because what that does too is that it doesn't give any particular bowler an opportunity to bowl a lot of deliveries to one particular batsman. That is also another side of it too, which is a very valuable point.
Yes, and in international cricket, it's not going to be that easy as Ward defends. The ball goes out square of the wicket on the offside. Smith moves away from first slip to retrieve, no run. So Cornwall, of course, he's batting well, but that's one aspect of his game that is proving to be a bit of a shortcoming, punched up to cover there by Ward, knocked down there by Simmons, and Ward can't score. So over number 105 comes to an end. 327 for 5. Windwards.
Yes, and Cornwall not out on 49, Terence Ward not out on 75. Good partnership between these two. It will be interesting to know, though, in terms for both batsmen, what their boundaries percentages are in terms of 4s and 6s, in terms of Terence Ward and Rakeem Cornwall. Now, these two, they haven't seen, apart from 1 or 2 deliveries from the opening bowler towards Ward. Outside of that, though, as you quite rightly said, Smith, and I must agree with you with that no one else looked like a part of taking a wicket, really, breaking this partnership. And the longer that they spend out in the field, it could be more wearing on them physically, with the hot sun beating down here. So I thought the motive would have been to try to see if you could get these 5 wickets quickly and take the new ball, but that wasn't to be. These two are still out there for the Leeward Islands in Rakeem Cornwall, and the battle continues.
Yes, and Philip will continue from the media center, and he moves away from us now. Right arm over the wicket, bowls now, driven, but straight up to Mohammed at mid-off. He feels and there's the run. The ball getting to Mohammed rather quickly. And now we are seeing the slip being taken out, and he's being placed into a very short mid-off in a catching position. So some adjustment to the field. No slip region very vacant. As Philip goes in now and bowls outside the off stump to Cornwall. Cornwall does not play a shot, and through it goes to Ramden. Cornwall 49, Ward 75, 327 for 5, 17 extras. Batsmen to go Hodge for 2. It was 8 for 1. Powell for 5. It was 14 for 2. Carty for 44, 115 for 3. Thomas for 67, 141 for 4. Hamilton for 68 to 50 for 5. And those are the wickets that have gone now. This time he's edging, inside edging in to the mid-wicket region for a single. And in fact, that brings up Cornwall 50. So he goes to 50. 50 for Cornwall, 328 it is now for 5. And the Ward comes down and gives him some words of congratulations.
Yes, and very well played by Rakeem Cornwall, and in that 50 he had some 8 4s. So always a high percentage of boundaries. Yes, that's obvious, a shortcoming in his game, but actually with that high percentage per innings that he hit boundaries, it's amazing, you know.
Philip, once more, goes in this time to Ward, who's driving, but bottom edging down to first slip. Solo Zano fields and there's no run. Slip has been put in place for Ward, who's on 72, but for Cornwall it was taken out. There's a slip, there's a gully, there's a backward point is now back on the boundary, just about 10 meters away from the backward point boundary. Cover has gone a bit deeper. There's an extra cover. There's a mid-off. As Philip goes in now, bowls a good delivery right on target, on off, and defended there by Ward. There's no run. On the onside, there are just 3 fieldsmen there on the onside, a short mid-wicket, a long leg, and a mid-on. So Victor One gets the impression though that Ramlin is just waiting. He does not seem to be too proactive out there to me.
Waiting for something to happen.
He's just waiting for something to happen rather than trying to force a wicket. So, but these two are playing well though. As this one is on off stump and defended there by Ward. And the over comes to an end. It's 328 for 5.
Yes, and a very good partnership between these two, and the Leewards camp must be feeling very pleased thus far with a total of 328 for 5. And Ward also too has struck some 8 fours thus far in his 75. So 16 fours between these two, at least in this partnership, and that's a high percentage of boundaries.
Well, could you repeat those stats for me, please, Victor?
Cornwall have 8 fours, and so also is Ward.
8 fours.
Yeah.
Ward 8 fours in total.
Well,
In the
he struck 8 fours. He struck 8
partnership.
fours. It's part of the total. It's a part of his total.
Okay, but Cornwall would have joined him when I think he would have gotten past his half century, so probably just about 10 fours or so in this partnership. But that's something we'll have to confirm with the scorers.
Yeah.
As Karai continues, he has bowled 1 delivery so far to Cornwall, no runs scored. Comes in now, and Cornwall is driving at. The ball is in the air. It seemed to have come from bat and going to the right of Odin Smith. And backed up there by Mohammed, moving to his left from backward point, but he could have missed it, and probably coming from the glove of Ramlin. Cornwall is driving this time back up to the bowler, Karai, who fields to his own bowling as it becomes a bit more overcast, Victor.
Just momentarily, no immediate threat of rain though.
Karai once more comes in the bowls. Oh, this is bouncing past Cornwall's bat, but in fact, Cornwall seemed to have withdrawn the bat at the right moment. The ball bouncing through. Victor, as we look out towards us in the southern area, there seems to be a drone flying in that area. I don't know if it's a drone from the tourist ship.
There's something in there.
But there certainly seems to be a drone over there. As Karai bowls, and Cornwall is back attempting to force. Missed it completely, and it's taken behind by Ramlin. So Karai beating the bat of Cornwall a couple of occasions in this over so far. 328 for 5. Cornwall on 50. And he's defending and beaten. Oh my goodness, that's a lovely delivery. Spin and bounce that time, going past the outside edge and taken behind by Ramlin. So pretty good over there by Karai as the sun comes back out in all its glory. But a wonderful over, Victor.
Yeah, Karai really spinning and bouncing. And a total different action towards Cantu, who is also a leg break and googly bowler. but he seems like he comes from higher in his action and gives it a little more loop, a little more consistent than Can does. Well, Pierre is going to come to have a ball from the northern end, so it is obvious that Ramdin is relying on his spinners to break this partnership. That hasn't given any indication as yet, but Cornwall just had a change of gloves and probably remove the helmet. I'm not too certain if he did that also too, but he is going to be the non-striker.
So Pierre coming from the media center in for the first time. Prior to that, he had some 35 overs from the far end, the Lozak Road end, 35 overs, 4 maidens, 89 runs, and picked up 2 wickets, goes in the bowls. And this one is on the off stump, not spinning by any means, a straight delivery toward the defense. And it's picked up there in the onside, and the run is scored. And immediately, umpire Jacqueline Williams is telling him to keep off that danger area. He was warned before by umpire Blade, and this one is an attempted cut, missed completely there by Ward, taken by Ramdin. So Pierre getting guilty of getting a little close. He's a very tall man, slimly built, angular fella, goes in our left arm around wicket bowls, and Swanee gives a bit more loop, and Ward is coming forward and defending, and there's no run. So spin and bounce seem to have gone out of the track, at least for Pierre, who moves in now left arm around wicket bowls, and Ward is forward once more. Clouds seem to be building, Victor, in the southern western portion, and things changing up a bit in terms of the weather, as this one is driven up to widest mid-on, straight to St. Clair, who feels there's no run. 75 to Ward, 50 to Cornwall, 328 for 5. 17 extras, we are in over number 108. Ward is driving, but this time straight back up to the bowler, fields to his own bowling, and that completes the over, 328 for 5.
Yes, and good quick observation by Jacqueline Williams, the umpire, female umpire from Jamaica, and as Pierre, after delivering his first delivery from the northern end, indicating to him, no, you'll have to try and stay off of that danger area. So she is very competent, very observant, and that was good of her. She stands at square leg. Rakeem Cornwall will be on strike, another half century to his name, and really having a good season, regional season, also too as a lower order batsman with the bat. Really.
Well, it's Karai to continue. Anderson Phillip has had 26 overs, as this one is pushed up to long on for a single by Cornwall. He goes to 51 with that and takes the score to 329 for 5. Phillip 26 overs, 7 innings, 86 runs, and he has picked up 1 wicket. St. Clair, who we have not seen for the day so far, 10 overs for 32 runs and 2 wickets, as Karai bowls to Ward and beats the probing bat outside the off stump. Liverich spun away from him and beats him outside the off stump and taken behind by Ramdin. Dean Smith, he had 13 overs, 1 maiden for 51 runs without taking a wicket. As Karai comes in the right arm leg spin, this one is driven back up the track to the bowler, who fields to his own ball in no run. Carey Pierre, 36 overs, 5 maidens, 89 runs, 2 wickets. Imran Khan, 12 overs, 3 maidens, 51 runs, no wicket. And Karaya comes in up bowls, and this one is driven up to long off. Khan comes in from off the boundary, fields, and it's a single to Ward, takes him on to 76 and takes the score on to 330 for 5. But certainly this has been a magnificent fight back by the Leeward Islands after losing 2 quick wickets yesterday. This one wide and a bit shortish, but spinning further away from Cornwall. And at first he was interested, but then decided against going after it. Karai once more comes in right arm leg spin, bowls another leg spinner. It spins past the bat of Cornwall. But Victor, we have seen a couple of leg spinners, the left arm leg spinner, the right arm leg spinner. But sad to say, we are not really seeing any googlies from these bowlers, which could be the wrong one, if you want to call it that, which could be very effective.
Oh yes, extremely effective, and that is the one which really puts batsmen into error in terms of that googly, and even with Pierre as a left arm orthodox spinner, I have not recollect seeing him bowl. If he did any arm ball deliveries, like try to bring it back into the right hander.
Well, Pierre will continue. This one is spinning away and struck away too by Ward. It's going out towards the point boundary, pulled back there by, looks like, Sinclair. And they were able to pick up two runs. I thought for one moment they might have thought of picking up 3 runs there, but just 2 runs as Sinclair makes his way back. He was assisted there by the Silver. He pulled it back. He goes in a bowls, and this time Ward is defending. Ward has gone on to 78. And no doubt he would be having designs on a 3-figure victor, as it's Pierre bowls to him and he's coming well forward. It goes there to Solo Zano, who is at forward short leg. He fields and there's no run. So Pierre once more left arm around wicket bowls to Ward. Ward comes forward. And quite interestingly,
he wanted a sharp signal.
Cornwall is thinking in terms of a sharp signal. Ward is not interested. Cornwall probably fancying his chances against Pierre, so he wants to get down to the other end. Spear bowls to Ward. He gets a delivery, an off stump, straight delivery, not turning, not doing much. Just on a good line and length, and he plays it. He defends well. Slip, backward point, cover deep, extra cover, mid off deep also, and Pierre. He's drawing a defensive prod there by Ward, and the over comes to an end once more. So 3-3-2 for 5, the Leewards.
Yes, and in a very solid position, extreme, magnificent comeback by the Leeward Islands, because they lost 2 early wickets yesterday when play commenced here in this encounter between Trinidad and Tobago Red Force and the Leewards. Munson Hodge was the first to go, then Kyron Powell, the captain, went also too, but then there were a good partnership between Casey Carty and Devon Thomas, 101, and then it followed by Terence Watt and Hamilton, 109. So, and this one here also an interesting partnership developing now between Ward and Cornwall.
So it's driven there by Cornwall, and it's fielded by the Silver. And Sri Lanka, of course, playing against South Africa, Victor, in a very good position to wrap up the series. They won the first test match. Drive there by Cornwall. Might have come from edge. Catch not taken. It goes into the slip region. And from the reaction of the bowler, it seemed as though the catch was put down there by Ramlin.
Yeah, from the bowler's reaction, walking away in disappointment most likely, and really, from his reaction, that's an indication that there might have just been the edge, and the bowler disappointed that his captain, wicketkeeper Ramlin, did not held on.
So it's Karai once more. This time he's driving, and the Silva, who is that one of those two extra cover, gets the hand to it, but cannot prevent the single as the ball goes down to Can, who is on the long off boundary, and Cornwall picks up a single. So it's all threes up top. 3-3-3 for 5. Cornwall 52, Ward 78. The second one there, over there in Barbados, as Ward comes quietly forward. No run. England, they actually won the toss, Victor, and they elected to send the West Indies in. England, of course, won the first one there. And this one is beaten outside the half stump by a spinning delivery. Spin and bounce there for Karai and taken behind by Ramden. And, of course, South Africa up against it. They were bowled out cheaply by Sri Lanka. In fact, they were bowled out for 128 in the second innings. And they enjoyed the lead on first innings as this one is played up to cover for just a single. That should have been 2. But just a single taken there, and Ward goes to 79, 334 for 5, the Windwards. So, Sri Lanka 32 without loss, needing 197 to win, and if they win the second match, Victor, it would be a whitewash there for South Africa.
And which day that is?
This is,
Day.
of course, the day 3, I think. So lots of time. Day 2, in fact. We're just in day 2.
Well, this also
Session
too.
3.
This also too might be a record in terms of the conclusion and time frame of a test match against each other. That is playing each test playing nation, Sri Lanka and South Africa. Then
Of course it's
that
not-
also too.
Of course, it's not a foregone conclusion in that
No.
match because Sri Lanka themselves, they made just 154 in the first innings. But then in the first test match, they chased down, they was at 304 and they chased it down. Pereira himself, Pereira got 153 not out. And with the last man at the crease, he was able to take Sri Lanka over the line. And they chased down 304 runs.
Yes.
Now they have a smaller target. In fact, they're now 32 for 1. They've just lost a wicket.
Okay.
So it's not over by any means. It's not a foregone conclusion for any one of those teams. In fact, we saw Sri Lanka collapsing today, or this morning they collapsed for 154. So this can go either way.
Yes, we have seen so much transformation in matches, so you cannot really call it until it's over. But you're not missing any cricket though here at Warner Park because the refreshment cart is on the field. The players are refreshing themselves.
In the one-day match, West Indies, England, of course. England won the toss, inserted the West Indies, and England, West Indies batting there 1 for no loss. England, of course, making one change to their side. They left out Wokes. In fact, they said they rested Wokes. Rather interesting. He has been sitting out for a whole tour to the Caribbean so far. Comes in, plays one match, and he's been rested. After one match.
That's a good way of putting it.
Right, so they brought in Tom Curran in his place. But it's a nice way of saying being dropped.
That's right.
Because for man, well, he has had some injuries, so
Okay, it might have been that.
I don't know if it's a question of they're trying to handle him rather sensibly. But after one match, he has been rested. And West Indies batting, of course. Trying to see, Victor, if there are any changes to the West Indies team, because in that first match, certainly the bowling lacked bite. And I thought that West Indies, they had enough runs on the board, but they went into that match with a very weak attack. And I was not surprised when England scored those runs, 360 runs. And I would have thought that West Indies might have probably played Cottrell to lend some strength to the bowling attack. But the water cat is off the field. We're back here, Victor, and probably some quick comments before we start again from you, Victor.
Yes, indeed. And the West Indies batting, they did well, and the bowlers just didn't defend that total, which I thought was more than reasonable for them to defend. But we'd all hope that they will present a much better performance in this second ODI versus England.
So, Pierre will continue. And Cottrell is in. And in fact, it's interesting. Cottrell is in. And I'm trying to see who was left out because Nicholas Puran was left out. Puran was left out as this one is defended there by Ward. So Puran has been left out, and they have brought in a fifth bowler, Cottrell. So just that one change to West Indies team as Pierre bowls to Ward, who gets it down to a backward point, and the silver fields, and there's no run. And we have been going here for just over an hour, and Leeward Islands yet to lose the wicket as Pierre goes into bowls. Ward is driving up to extra cover. Simmons is in the way, can't score. He's kept on 79, 21 runs away from. If he gets there, what would be a well-played 100. He defends this time. It goes up to mid-on. It's fielded there by Sinclair. There's no run. And he goes in once more now. Bowls a delivery outside the Austin, which spins slightly away from Ward, who is attempted to drive and missed it completely, and threw it went to Ramdin. So 334 for 5. Pierre goes in now, bowls a delivery which is edged between the keeper and first slip. Both of them, they're still looking at the spot, but it's long gone. And the 4 runs to Ward.
Well, and really some luck there for Terence Ward, because it was between the keeper and first slip. The first slip looked to me from my position a little too wide. It went actually between both of them, and luckily for Ward, he earned himself 4 runs, so he has a little luck going his way, and no doubt will be concentrating and thinking about making 100. But Correa, he looks more likely this morning of the bowlers who can break this partnership. He looks, because he has beaten both batsmen on a few occasions, both Rakeem Cornwall and Terence Ward. But it will be Cornwall who will be on strike.
So Cornwall, who is on 52, Ward has gone on to 83, 338 for 5. The 17 extras on the board. And Ward is driving back up the track too. Correa fields to his own bowling. There's the run. In over number 113. And yet no signs of the new ball being taken. Correa right arm, spin bowls. Good delivery, spins past Cornwall, beats the outer edge, taken behind by Ramlin, who flicks off the off bail, then repairs it quite quickly. Correa once more comes in the bowls, and this one is swung away over long off. And in fact, I've really lost sight of that one, but
On the roof.
seem to have gone all the way and probably gone over the stand. We have not seen any signal yet, did we?
Yeah, 6 runs. It
6
hit
runs,
the-
in fact. That was a
yeah.
quick signal there by the umpire.
Yeah, it hit the top of the one of the southern stands roof and just fell down.
So I certainly lost sight of that one, Victor. That was what was launched into orbit by Cornwall. He's defending this time. He has gone on to 58. 344 it is for 5. So the power of Cornwall coming to the fore there as he settles once more. Big man, powerfully built, very tall. He's driving this time up to long off for a single. Takes him on to 59 and takes the score on to 345 for 5. These two nearing 100 partnerships, just some 5 runs away. 95-run partnership between these two so far. Came together with the score of 250. So if they get there, this would be the third 100 partnership for the Leeward Islands in this innings. Defended by Ward, it goes back up the track to Karai Fields. The over comes to an end.
Yes, and this is very good for the Leeward Islands camp in that there were batsmen who spent time at the crease and they got respectable scores to the total, and the partnerships that have been established were very good. The first was between Carty, that's Casey Carty, and Devon Thomas of 101, and then the second one was Will Hamilton and Ward, who is still there with Cornwall. He is not out on 83, and Cornwall 59 already. So high percentage of boundaries in that 59, obviously, because that is the way Cornwall bats, and consistently as a lower order batsman, his aggregate, no doubt, it must be very high at this present moment.
So Pierre, who had an extended spell, goes to Cornwall, who stands to his full height, gets a delivery which is bouncing a bit on him. He steers it down to backward point for the silver to field. There's no run. He goes in once more now. Left arm around the wicket, bowls, and he draws away and bangs it out to cover. And Sinclair, in fact, that's Correa who comes in from off the boundary to field, and just a single to Cornwall, who goes on to 60. And it's now 346 for 5. So Pierre, once more, goes in now, bowls to Ward. Ward is defending. Pierre is in fact in his 39th over. Correa has had 9 overs, 1 maiden for 21 runs compared to Pierre 38. Can has had 17 overs. And here is Ward defending. He's on 83, 46 for 5, 60 Cornwall. Couple more spectators coming in today compared to yesterday. Short, he's looking to force into the offside and gets it square of the wicket on the offside, and it's fielded there by the silver. There's no run. So between the other two spinners, just some 26 overs. This one is driven up to Simmons, that extra cover fields, and there's no run. So high percentage of the overs bowled by spinners are being sent down by Caribbean. In fact, 39 compared to another 26 by the other two, Victor.
Yes, and they really turning around. And one thing has been noticeable of the TNT Red Force is that they get their field placements in order quite in appropriate times also too, with the spinners in operation, and that also accelerate the process of the over rate, which is very good by TNT Red Force.
Well, it's Correa who will continue. Yannick Correa, right arm leg spin, comes in now, bowls to Cornwall, who drives it up to long off and picks up a single, takes him on to 61, takes the score on to 347 for 5. And these two, they've certainly looked good. They've batted well. And they've really he pushed the scoreboard along to Ward is forward. And it goes down to short third man. It's Mohammed, who is at backward point, had to move to his left to retrieve, and there's no run. 3 runs away from the 100 partnership, these two. And this time, it's turned into the onside. Ramlin, after it quickly, prevents a run. And it's still 347 for 5. There's a slip, there's a backward point cover, sweeping 2 extra cover, long off, mid on, short mid wicket, rather straight, and a deep backward square. And Karai will continue. This time he's bowling to Ward, who's back, and drops it into the offside. And it's Odin Smith who moves around, picks up, there's no run. Karai once more, right arm leg spin comes in, up bowls, and he's stepping out, it's in the air, backpedaling there is his peer, and gets on, they takes the catch, and Ward is on his way, he's out caught off the bowling of Karai, and he scored 83 and 347 for 4, just 3 runs short of 100 partnership, Victor.
Yes, and a very good partnership, very good innings by Terence Ward coming to an end. And as I indicated earlier, that Karai looked like the one who can break this partnership. He did so. A very well played 83, 17 shy of his first regional century. Terence Ward being caught at mid-on for 83, and really sharing a very valuable partnership with Rakeem Cornwall, who is actually not out on 61. Terence Ward just being dismissed for 83. So Rakeem Cornwall, in his usual batting motions, really a high percentage of boundaries, and this has been the hallmark of his batting as a lower order batsman, that high percentage of boundaries, because 83 were just being dismissed. 97 run partnership, very valuable one again. 3 very important partnerships in this total thus far of 347 for 5, the Leewards, and well done to the Leeward Islands batsmen, and they have all demonstrated, and I hope also too that even though Terence Ward didn't get the century, what was good about his knock, that he spent time at the crease, because this is a 4-day encounter.
Well, the new batsman looks like Jacobs, Damian Jacobs, and although the ball was in the air for a long time, surprisingly Victor, the batsman, didn't cross. In fact, he had to backpedal quite a bit, and one would have thought that the batsman would have made an attempt to cross, but it was the final delivery of the over that they had been bowled by Correa, a successful over, so he now has 1 for 22 of 10 overs with 1 maiden, so well-deserved success, Victor, and quite fittingly too, because he seemed to be the only bowler out there that was troubling the batsman a bit, and it seemed that he might have picked up a wicket at some point.
Yes, like I quickly sensed that in terms of seeing the spinner getting that bounce and turn, and he beating both batsmen, Ward, who is now dismissed, and Cornwall, who is not there on a few occasions, and he actually got the result that Trinidad and Tobago wanted. But the ball stood up in the air for a while, and a lot of times he's thinking into the game too, and he should have really picked up that Cornwall and crossed to be on strike, but it was only 1 delivery left.
Here goes in now, left arm around the bowls, and he's Cornwall banging it out to cover where Karai fields, and just a single to Cornwall takes him on to 63, and takes the score on to 348 for 6. In fact, he goes to 62, and Jacobs will receive his first delivery. He picks up the line outside the off stump, but the delivery going straight through, and does not play a shot. The ball goes through to Ramden, who takes behind. And It's play once more. Taking on the pad, the appeal goes up. Umpire Williams, Jacqueline Williams, shakes her head in the negative. And Victor, probably that's the first time you've seen the ball strike the pads for the morning.
Interesting.
This one, and of course, it's a new batsman defended there by Jacobs. I don't recall that we've had an appeal for leg before. Well, it might have struck it going down the leg side, but in terms of something which might have offered the leg before, paddled around nicely by Jacobs. It's going down towards fine leg. They're back for the second run. In fact, they just really strolled through for a second run. And Victor, there we go again. No real urgency in the run in that time. The fielder there, Odin Smith, had to run all the way from first slip down to a deep fine leg. And he is an attempted cut shot there by, in fact, he connected well, but cannot beat the silver. And the no run is scored.
Yes, and the sun is back with us now in its fullness. There was a bit of overcast, but things have improved, and we would hope that process will continue throughout this further encounter. Well, the Leeward Islands have found themselves in a very solid position, and what also too might be a telling factor in a sense that the longer that the Trinidad and Tobago Red Force stay in the field too, it will be very much something could possibly fall in favor of the Leeward Islands.
So it's Kariah, the wicket taker for the day, bowls to Cornwall. Cornwall whips it back up the track to Kariah, feels well to his own bowling. There's no run. There's a long off back on the boundary. Long one also on the boundary. Deep backward square. Extra cover right back on the boundary. And then in the inner circle, there's a slip, a backward point. Extra cover wide mid off. As this one is swung away, it's in the air. The fielder is getting on it. Can takes the catch easily. And Kariah, within 2 overs, he has picked up the 2-set batsman.
Yes.
So there goes Cornwall caught for 62. And all of a sudden, the floodgates are open, Victor.
Yes, and really, Kariah really has been deserving of those 2 wickets.